certified master black belts and Lean Sensei practitioners with over 30 years of domestic and international experience. As we move through the webinar today, we welcome questions and feedback during the presentation. You can send messages in the chat box, and you will also have an opportunity to chime in by unmuting your line. For today's Lunch and Learn series, we will be joined by Dr. Andrew Lux and R.C. Caldwell. Andrew is an operations and technical leader with extensive experience in overseeing and directing global operations within Class 2 and Class 3 medical device and pharmaceutical manufacturing firms. His expertise ranges in leading business transformations, coordinating and leading strategic acquisition, business development transactions, and revenue growth strategies for startup and mid-sized companies. His background is in directing companies ranging from startups to multi-million-dollar global business, including divisions for Johnson & Johnson, GE, Medtronic, Baxter, and others. RC has over 30 years of management, engineering, and manufacturing experience from Johnson & Johnson, General Motors, Goodrich Aerospace, Cintas, and Sinclair Community College in the United States, Europe, Mexico, Canada, and China. He led the Global Partner Development Supplier Excellence Group that resolves critical quality and capacity problems at strategic suppliers. For today's series, on the agenda for today, we will be discussing today's business environment, rebuild and recovery strategy, Lean Six Sigma, benefits of Lean Six Sigma, benefits including case studies, Shingle model and Lean Six Sigma training, and most importantly, how can we help you? Andrew?
Thank you, Danielle. Well, good afternoon, everyone. The background of today's discussion really stems around the calamity and the chaos that the COVID situation has brought upon us overall. It's been a very difficult journey overall. Many folks believe that we're coming out of the woods on this in general, and then you get some opinions that we're just heading into another phase. Nonetheless, this whole COVID issue has really caused a lot of disruption. Disruption from government oversight, variability of input from various entities in the government, disruption as far as how to control the pandemic, wear your mask, don't wear your mask, et cetera, et cetera. And then overall, concerns for our worker safety as a result of these kind of variability kind of inputs from various sources. The question is, how do we recover from these business interruptions, shutdowns, slowdowns, whatever you want to call it? How do we get through it as best as we possibly can? It really kind of looks at how you look at the problem. I really look at things like, it's important to really identify opportunities as far as what can this major disruption cause leverage for us. Don't focus on the losses, focus on the opportunities. How do we work through those? Don't focus on the setbacks. Define what progress you want to achieve. But really centered around that is, how do you evaluate, how do you drive value creation overall for your customer base with all the new constraints that the market has imposed upon it? The market will recover. It will recover in some format. And the question is, how do you leverage your business to really take advantage of that recovery? Next slide, please. So, there's some fundamentals here that we can look upon. And I think we're going to need a strategy, most and foremost, a clear plan as far as how do you get back into business as best as you possibly can in the new business venue, in the new business format. Really is, and I think the most important thing here is establish a cultural kind of foundation that really that really can sustain change. And that really entails basically a heavy focus on employee education as far as how to facilitate that change and the appropriate investments in how to guarantee patient safety and product performance. You got to go forward. We believe that you have to go forward with a proven methodology. This is not the time to really try new things and new ideas. What could those new methodologies be? One is Lean Six Sigma. Lean Six Sigma is really made up of two distinct but interconnected kind of philosophies, all encircled by the Shingo model of methodology. Lean, the first phase of it, Lean, really started in the late 70s by Takeshi Ono out of Toyota, where he really focused on waste reduction. That was the premise behind it. The Lean concepts are fairly easy to understand. You want to eliminate waste and non-value added activities. Sustaining that and driving that from a cultural point of view is more difficult. And that's where the Shingo model really helps. Next slide, please. Six Sigma, on the other hand, was really brought forward by GE. Jack Welch in particular, who really looked at variability as a problem and really as a cost issue. So the whole issue around Six Sigma is how do you reduce variability in your processes, whether it be manufacturing processes, business transaction process, any kind of processes. Six Sigma concepts are heavily statistically based. They're analytically based. They're more difficult to understand because, you know, we all forget how to use statistics.
Someone's at the side door.
Oops, excuse me. How to use statistics. But once that's in place, it's fairly easy to sustain that, as opposed to Lean, which is the converse of that. Both situations have had their inputs and their value. The next slide, please. But what really became apparent is, in addition to those two elements, the drive for innovation, the speed, the effectiveness and efficiency for innovation is absolutely critical, and that is a key business driver. These three things coupled together, a lean, highly focused value-added manufacturing process or business process with reduced variability and with a process methodology that drives innovation effectively and efficiently into the marketplace, are proven methodologies that are winners. Next slide, please. So this kind of describes it. There's no single one bullet. All three tools are effective. They are now used interchangeably throughout the marketplace. Lean Six Sigma is used throughout as a common interrelated process, even though they are different by nature. And on the innovation side, there is a version of that called Design for Six Sigma, or what is now known as Lean Six Sigma. Lean Six Sigma is a unfortunate terminology. It's not statistically as heavily based. It's more of a fast, rapid, learn as you go kind of methodology and how to introduce new processes. And it's being used in heavily regulated industries like the automotive, like the aerospace industry and the medical device industry overall. All of these three philosophies are supported by the concept of continuous improvement as defined by the Shingo principles. Next slide, please. I'll hand it over to RC at this point.
Thanks, Andrew. Good morning, everyone. What I'd like to do is start with our first case study, which is a rotary die cutting machine company. I won't give you the name because we're trying to keep proprietary, but at that time I was general manager and the company was in bankruptcy, and they asked me to bring it back to profitability. So this is what I did in order to achieve that. I actually used Lean Six Sigma principles. First, I focused on customer and the customer support, getting an understanding of what the voice of the customer was. Then I focus internally on maintaining and improving quality. And once we start looking at that, we start looking at lowering our product costs with these type of improvements that impacted quality, and also looked at other continuous improvements to reduce our costs. So our strategy for our market was to grow our market. And what we were going to do, and the way we did that is because we were getting cost savings, we were going to penetrate the market with better quality and lower price. And we applied it also in the office and in production. Here's an example of one of our standardized products that we sold, some spare parts, and here's the pricing and the impact. We were able to drive down our costs and keep our margin share, our profit margin. So that was important to us to maintain the profit margin. By doing that, we increased our sales. And in about 14 months, we were making money and profitable. So here's a look at our profit margin for each month. Andrew.
Thanks, RC. Yeah, I basically have two examples, and the whole essence of, you could read a lot of books on Lean Six Sigma, but the real knowledge base really comes from the experience on doing projects. This particular project was a medical device fill and seal process. It was fairly straightforward, a simple process, contained 5 basic steps. I won't read it. The key issues around this were, first of all, the process lead times are 130 days, roughly, with 37 seconds of that being considered as value added, purely value added. So there's a lot of non-value added activities there. The focus was not so much as reducing the cycle time, but it was on improving on-time delivery due to the fact there was a lot of waste and rework issues and a lot of unfortunate documentation issues as identified by an FDA audit. Next slide, please. So the process on that was basically to follow through on the define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. Those are the 5 steps within the Six Sigma methodology. The first of which is doing just a value stream map. This is an as-is map of the process that shows the customer on the top right side, the order entry on the top layers of this graph, the process in the middle section, process steps in the middle sections, and then the cycle time shown analytically on the very bottom, and showing the total lead time being 130 days and the value added time being much less than that. This really helps identify where the waste issues are. Next step on this was, next slide, please. So the process really undertook looking at documentation and really the true documentation requirements for this process. We established a dedicated work cell based on a single flow methodology, which is really a key element of Lean's concepts. We established 2 supermarkets because there was a lot of subcomponents involved. There was an internal component supermarket that was established. And then on the very bottom, you can see there was a finished goods supermarket. So the entire process flowed based on a pure demand pull methodology. Next slide, please. Here's the final end stage of the process. The overall time was reduced a little bit, but the focus was primarily on getting on-time delivery. So the next slide will kind of outline what the final results truly were. Next slide, please. So lead time improved a little bit. The focus really was not there. The real improvements were on documentation accuracy, as I indicated before. That's where the focus due to the FDA audit really kind of highlighted an area that we needed to focus on. and based on the simplification of the documentation, still adhering to compliance requirements, it was improved substantially. On-time delivery was therefore improved. Inventory accuracy, because of the supermarkets that we had established. Supermarkets are an easy way to really control inventory. It really makes it simple. In fact, in this particular case, we would do on this line weekly audits of the inventory, which really took about a half an hour at the end of the day on Friday to do a quick audit and keep the inventory as accurate as possible. There was some label rework improvements as well, and overall labor variance was improved dramatically also. So very fundamental kind of improvements, showing dramatic process, dramatic business metric improvements also. Next slide. This is a robotic welding process that was initiated on one of our lines. Next slide. Showed 3 robotic machines. The issues were out of spec requirements. It was a startup process. The SPC, there was SPC that was established, statistical process control charts established initially, which showed the process was stable and capable, though many, almost all, 93% products were out of spec. So there was a high scrap rate in this process. Again, this was a startup line situation. Next slide, please. Here it shows the control chart on the leftmost side, showing there is fairly good control, though you could see maybe on the left there was some out of control issues. The probability chart showed that given the specification, there was a 93% probability of not meeting product specs. So there was quite a bit, even though the process was capable, stable, it did not meet the product specification requirements. Next slide. A number of improvements were made. Raw materials were looked at and reviewed. The maintenance logs, as far as how these machines were being controlled, was reviewed and improved. And there was a process improvement. By the way, there was a issue here because many of us felt that these machines were capable and stable and met the requirements, but the workforce overall was very frustrated because they were blamed for not hitting product quality. So we implemented a stop process line, or any operator could stop the process if they felt that the process was not providing the specifications that or the quality levels required for this particular product, which had significant improvements in morale as well. Next slide, please. So here's the bottom graphic shows the before and after control chart, showing dramatic improvements in control. The probability chart of that is shown that if you plot those same data on a probability chart, that the yield went up from a 7% yield to a 8% nonconform. So 93% nonconformance rate improved to an 8% plus nonconformance rate. So dramatic improvement overall. This was the first set of improvements in a continuous improvement process. Next slide, please. Overall benefits, yield improved, on-time delivery resultingly improved. Major issue with the morale on that particular line was a dramatic improvement because the operators felt empowered to be able to highlight and stop any issues. And there's some resultant scrap improvements as well. The takeaway from these two kind of examples is you take some fairly basic principles of Lean Six Sigma, apply them, and they can make some dramatic improvements in your business processes. Next slide, please. RC?
Okay, thanks, Andrew. This is just an example of a small manufacturing organization, and this could be also an organization chart for any type of particular industry in manufacturing. You have your CEO, your vice president of marketing, engineering, operation, and accounting. And then you have their direct reports reporting to them. And in traditional, you usually don't have Lean Six Sigma or continuous improvement. People just work on their functional aspects of their jobs. And that's one of the things that creates silos. The difference is in an or operational excellence company, you have various people in your organization that either have a black belt or green belt or yellow belt. And I'm showing that denoted by the colors of the boxes. And then you have people that don't have any belts at all, but they know the knowledge of Lean through their peers, okay? And by having an organization that looks like this, you automatically by default have problem solvers. You have built-in mentors because the nature of Lean Six Sigma is the black belts help green belts help yellow belts help white belts, and that's the process. And that's what's, when you're taught, that's how you're taught to prepare you to help and mentor other people that have lower belts. So that creates an atmosphere of, and a culture that's more productive and more delightful for your employees. And that's what you're trying to create. You're trying to create a productive environment where people enjoy going to work, opposed to dreading to be there. So you look at these side by side and you can see which one, if you're competing, and this is what happens in a lot of organizations, when they're competing against a company that uses operational excellence, there's a difference. There's a distinct difference between the two. And that's typically what happened during the Toyota transformation of Toyota becoming a leader in the automotive field. They had continuous improvements back in the 80s and 70s and 80s, and it really hurt the American automotive until they started doing it. So that's just a little history. Andrew. You might be on mute, Andrew. You are on mute.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry about that. Before I proceed on to the slide, are there any questions or comments or discussion points that you'd like to bring forward on anything that RC and I have presented up to this point? So if there isn't, let me kind of summarize and wrap up here. How can we help you? There's two kind of fundamental services that we provide, and they go hand in hand. One is training, which is, as I said, I think really critical relative to coming through this whole COVID issue, this whole COVID business disruption, and investing in the employees is the one area that I think is going to be important as far as getting a culture that could sustain change and drive change going forward. So that establishes the organizational alignment. As I said before, is an issue around cultural transformation. And we believe that the Lean Six Sigma shingle model is really applicable in today's environment, especially with what we've been through with COVID-19. So, and then the second dimension to our services, obviously, is on the consulting side. We've had significant work experience in business turnarounds, business startups, both RC and I. We've worked both in large, extremely large organizations, as Danielle had mentioned, Johnson & Johnson, Baxter, and others, and also startups. Both of us have been involved in a culture-related kind of transformation, business transformation issues. And then the issue of continuous improvement and sustained excellence, as established by the shingle model, is a core element of our capabilities that we provide. So, yeah, if you could just just click on all these. So just as a summary, and I've kind of mentioned this before, people kind of use the terminology Lean, Six Sigma as a process. As I mentioned, it's really made up of two elements. Lean being very easy to understand, but difficult to implement and sustain. Six Sigma, somewhat difficult to understand because of its statistical nature. But once it's set up, once you've set up your SPC charts or your multivariate data analysis methodologies, your CAPA programs, et cetera, it's fairly easy to sustain. So they're two different animals, albeit they're both complementary. And both of those are bridged by how the culture of the business really accepts, sustains, drives continuous improvements as established by the Shingo model. Next slide, please.
And just to give you a little bit of history on the Shingo model, the Shingo model in 2000, Business Week referred to the Shingo Prize, which is part of the Shingo model, as the Nobel Prize for Manufacturing. The Shingo Prize is considered one of the world's highest standard for operational excellence. And also that since I'm an affiliate, if you need to benchmark Shingo, a Shingo plant that has received the Shingo Prize, we have an opportunity to get you in there once this COVID-19 pandemic is under control. There are 6 class courses that you would take if you decide as a business to take the Shingo model and use it in your facility. First, there's the Discovery Excellence. That's the prerequisite to all of the other classes. Then we prefer, and you can go take these in any order, but we prefer you to take the System Design. And from the System Design, you learn how to design your system to drive behavior. And then there's a Culture Enabler piece, which really teach your leaderships and also your employees how to respect and for each other and work together. Then we have the continuous improvement class and the enterprise alignment, which aligns your people, system, strategy. And then you have the build excellence, which is the capstone. All these courses can be given virtually or on site. The Shingo Prize and the Shingo has been used globally. And as you can see in this map, it's on every continent. So it's known all over the world. And it's time tested, started in 1989. Here are some of the recent recipients. Danielle.
Thank you, RC. At this time, I want to direct your attention to our certified Lean Six Sigma virtual bootcamp workshops. This is a look at our upcoming offerings that we have. Starting off, our Lean Six Sigma white belt is available to take at your convenience. You can sign up on our website. You can take the workshop at your own pace, and then take the certification exam. Now we do have a Lean white belt workshop. This is an on-site workshop only. So this is something that we will schedule and come on site to help your team in person. Coming up next Friday, April the 2nd, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern time, we have our Lean Six Sigma Yellow Belt workshop. Now this is a virtual workshop. This can be taken online, and the cost for that is $95. And for our on-site workshop, we have the Lean Practitioner. And again, these can be scheduled on our website. Now, Monday, April the 19th, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern time, We have our Lean Six Sigma Green Belt workshop. This again is a virtual workshop, and it's unique in we include 2 hours of free project mentoring consulting. So this is to help you get through the certification course and to help you become successful in what you will be doing in the future. And our Lean Leader workshop can be scheduled online as well. That's our in-person offering. And last, we have our Lean Six Sigma Black Belt virtual workshop. This is going to be coming up Monday, May 19th from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. This also includes 4 hours of free project mentoring consulting. We want to help you get through the certification and help give you the tools to be successful. Now, we do have our on-site workshop, Lean Expert. The cost is listed there. And again, this can be scheduled with your company. You can sign up on our website. And you also have the option of taking the International Association of Six Sigma certification. So you can get dual certifications from the yellow belt through the black belt.
Okay, that concludes our presentation today and our webinar. Is there any questions or comments? You can ping us in the chat, or you can go off mute and just ask questions for me or Andrew. Okay, if not, thank you very much for your time. It didn't take as long as we thought. We thought 45 minutes, we did it in 38 minutes. So that gives you some time for the rest of your day. And since it's Friday, happy Friday to you. Have a very great day and a great weekend. Goodbye, everyone.